But let's get into it. This evening's lesson is Ruth the Moabitess. Ruth the Moabitess. All right. It's a few things I wanted to talk about concerning Ruth. All right. Um, I know there are a few things. I know that there's a doctrine that's been circulating around, pretty much saying that Ruth, beyond a shadow of a doubt, is an Israelite. All right. Um, we'll go into that, see if that's the case or not. There's also some other things that I just want to share with you guys, according to the scriptures concerning Ruth. So let's get into it. One of the things that I did want to talk about first, I don't see Bakwash in here. I recall Bakwash maybe about this was well over a year ago, and Bakwash, she asked the question, and I don't want to butcher what she asked, but it was something to this effect. She said, "Why is it that Ruth, being a woman of another nation, how is it that she gets a book of the Bible named after her?" How many of you guys have asked that question, or you may have thought it, or you heard it being asked, and you said, I'm kind of curious of that myself. All right, so go to Proverbs chapter 22. Y'all all right? All right, let's get it. Proverbs 22. Let's get verse 1. So we're dealing with Ruth. Ruth has a book called the Book of Ruth, an entire book named after her. Not only is she a woman, because I know a lot of people say, well, it's not too many books of the Bible that are named after women. There are a few. Some people, mostly women within the truth, and also those that are outside of the truth, may even argue that women are not deemed to be as important or important at all, or relevant when it comes down to the Bible, right? So read that real quick.
Proverbs chapter 22 and verse 1. A good name is rather to be chosen than great riches.
So this is what the Bible says. The Bible says a good name is rather to be chosen than what?
Than great riches.
Than great riches. How many of you guys up in here are rich? Okay. How many of you guys up in here wouldn't mind being rich? Raise your hand up high. Come on. Now, with that being said, if you've been living long enough, you got some responsibilities and you probably got some debts, right? What could a couple of $1 million do for you right now? Huh? What could a backpack of gold do for you right now? A pouch of diamonds? Huh? A couple of Bentleys in your name and a fleet of classics. What could that do for you right now? Huh? Okay. Now let me ask you a question. What does your name mean to you? Because you don't need any of the things that I just talked about to build your name. How many of you guys have really taken that opportunity to build your name? Only a few hands. Why? Because it's safe to say, you tell me if I'm wrong. A lot of us, we don't place that same value on our names, on our reputation, on what people think of us and what people will say about us once we're gone. We don't place that same value on that, do we? Why? Is it just because it's a personal choice? Is it possibly because of this place that we're in? and everything that's kind of contorted that causes us to think a certain way, to react a certain way, to place value on certain things and devalue other things. In many cases, things that we should value, we don't value. And things that we really shouldn't value, we find value in. Read it one more time.
A good name is rather to be chosen than great riches.
So how many of y'all believe in the Bible? Raise them high if you believe. Okay, so now let me tell you something. Some of you might be a little upset with me when I say this. There's a difference between what you say versus what you do and what you show through your actions. So a whole lot of y'all raised your hands when you said that, hey, I believe in the Bible. Well, read it one more time.
A good name is rather to be chosen than great riches.
So the Bible says it's a simple choice. Your name, that's what you should focus on. That's what you should find some value in versus riches. But a lot of us, we're not showing that through our walk. We're not showing that through our actions. We're not showing that through our choices. Am I right or am I wrong? Can anybody say I'm wrong? Well, something wrong with that picture. So when we talk about this woman of another nation named Ruth, one thing that we got to know off top, no matter what you may think, this woman of another nation, she had a name or has a name that was worthy enough to be placed as one of the books of this Bible. Because it could have easily been named the Book of Pharez. Actually, her son was named Obed. Could have been the Book of Obed. It could have been the book of Boaz. It could have been the book of Naomi. Naomi is spoken about throughout it, the situation. It could have been named after any of them, but it was named after Ruth. Go from there. Go to Ecclesiasticus, chapter 41. So I hope y'all with me. I hope y'all ain't too sleepy. I know you've been working all week. Ecclesiasticus chapter 41 and verse 12. See, we hear the Bible and we say, oh, yeah, that's cool. But my name ain't going to pay the bills. Thing that we got to realize is the people that rule this earth right now, the nation and the particular branch of that nation, the branch of Edom, the Amalekites who run this earth, were able to do so much of what they've done and what they are doing based off of what? Based off of the name that they took on, which happened to be, guess whose name? Your name and my name. A name means much more. And that's the reason why a lot of us don't think that much of our name, because we haven't seen or equated what it means to have a name. And what are the privileges and what's the word I'm looking for? The accolades, and it's another one I'm looking for. I can't think of.
Accommodation.
Benefits. There you go. It's a simple one. The benefits that come along with that name. Go ahead and read that.
Ecclesiasticus chapter 41 and verse 12. Have regard to thy name.
The Bible says, have regard to thy name. Our people, a lot of times, we don't have much regard to our names. Some of us have names and we've never even thought about what our name actually means. Right? Then we take on street names, hood names. We don't really have much regard for our name. And more so what that name represents, which is our reputation, our legacy. Go ahead.
For that shall continue with thee above 1,000 great treasures of gold.
You see that? I don't care how much money, how rich you are, but it's your name that's going to last. Your riches are going to be given to someone else, but your name is the thing that's going to last. Your name is the thing, because see, Esau know this. If I got a good enough name, that's what they call credit, right? If I got a good enough name, I can pretty much get what I want anyway. That's why he never tell you how to build your credit. So credit is worth more than money. You got good credit, you can get whatever you want. Go from there. Go to Ecclesiasticus chapter 3. See, here we are, many generations down the line, and we having a lesson about a woman named Ruth, a woman of another nation, a woman who you've never laid eyes on. Pretty powerful. Ecclesiasticus chapter 3 and verse 18.
Ecclesiasticus chapter 3 and verse 18.
Now pay close attention, because I'm going to tell you why I went to this particular scripture. Go ahead.
The greater thou art.
So the Bible says the greater thou art, the greater you are. The more people celebrate you, the more that you have, and the more that you have to give. Go ahead.
The more humble thyself.
The more you should humble yourself. The guy who's the top dog, the sister who's the head sister, the Bible says you should be more humble, and not even just humble, but you should humble yourself. So that means there has to be a concentrated effort and a choice to humble yourself more than those that would be deemed to be beneath you, those that you may even have authority over, those that you have seniority over. You should humble yourself more than them. How often do we see this? That's why when you finally see it, it's a rarity and it's something special to you. Because even in this truth, you don't see it often enough, do you? You don't see it often on your job. You don't see it. More people, the greater people are, the more they feel like they shouldn't be bothered. Straight up. Greater you are, and I heard Puff, and it was crazy. It was so true though. I seen somebody post something on Instagram, and it was P. Diddy, Puff, whatever he called himself, Sean Combs, and he said something that was so real. He basically said, look, I'm gonna tell you the key. He said the cheat code is this. He said, you got to make a lot of money, because I make enough money to pay everybody. I pay everybody to do everything, so I ain't got to do nothing. He said, that's the beauty of it. He said, all I got to do, I can walk through here and smell the flowers. The whole point is I want to just enjoy living life. I'm able to pay everybody around me to do everything that I need them to do, so I don't have to do anything. What's so crazy about that, I guarantee I can go to pretty much everybody's job up in here, everybody that has a job, and I guarantee the higher you go up, the less that they do. The more money they make, the more they get to BS and have conversations. You watch it on TV, man, they drinking scotch, making $1 million a year. But at your job, you barely making minimum wage. And you can't drink on your job. You getting drug tested. What's up with that? The more you make, the less you do. This is what they call capitalism. I mean, it's a little bit more to it than that, but This is one of the traits of capitalism. All right. So now, why? Read it one more time, and I'm gonna tell you exactly why I'm saying this. Go ahead.
The greater thou art, the more humble thyself.
The more you're supposed to humble yourself. Go ahead.
And thou shalt find favor before the Lord.
And that's how you find true favor with the Most High. Because a lot of us, we done gotten this truth and things ain't really been swinging the way we thought they was going to swing. And we start questioning and wondering and feeling like maybe it ain't no use of us sending them prayers up. How well have you humbled yourself? Keep it real. Probably haven't humbled yourself like you should. Now, the scriptures say the greater thou art. The thing is, we dealing with a woman of another nation, and you're going to see how humble she was. How much more humble should we be, especially our women dealing with a woman? If a woman of a nation, Ruth, which we're going to go into in a second, could be so humble, how much more humble should our women be, being that they're the greatest of the greatest nation on the earth? Huh? Man, you the greatest. There shouldn't be another woman out there more humble and modest than y'all. Same thing with us men. There shouldn't be another group of men on the face of this earth more humble than us. All right, let's go to I'm gonna show you that we the greatest. Well, I don't have to do that. We already know that we Israel. Let's go to Ruth. You want me to show you? Go to Deuteronomy then. Deuteronomy chapter 4, real quick. Yes, sir. It's my guys are Allah. I'll go to it. Deuteronomy chapter 4. Let's get verse 1 and drop down to 5.
Deuteronomy chapter 4 and verse 1. Mm-hmm. Now therefore, hearken, O Israel.
Who?
O Israel.
Talking to the nation of Israel. Talking to us, our forefathers, foremothers, and the descendants who happen to be us this very day. Go ahead and read.
Unto the statutes and unto the judgments which I teach you, for to do them, that ye may live, and go in and possess the land which the Lord God of your fathers giveth you.
So drop down to chapter 5. Verse 5. We're talking about the nation of Israel. Go ahead.
Verse 5. Behold, I have taught you statutes and judgments, even as the Lord my God commanded me, that you should do so in the land whither you go to possess it.
Go ahead.
Keep therefore and do them.
He said, all these things that I've taught you through this book, these records, which were written, right, by the finger of the Most High, and then the rest written through our forefathers, through the prophets, through the scribes, right? He said, these things that you're being taught, he said, I want you to do these things. Read.
For this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the nation.
You wonder why people think the way they think about our people, the way they think about so-called Hispanics, so-called blacks, so-called Israelites at large, even the ones that may be mingled amongst the other nations. You want to know why they, because see, that's the crazy thing. When you dealing even like with the Philippines, right? Even amongst them, I got a chance to see this myself. I noticed that there was a difference. Everybody ain't treated the same way. Everybody don't deal with each other the same way. Everybody's spirits don't mesh. So you pretty much can go amongst every nation, amongst every place, and you can see that there are people that are treated and looked upon in a certain way. Am I right or am I wrong? All right. So now, why is it that we happen to be looked at and looked upon in the way that we're looked upon? I'm going to make it real simple. The book of John chapter 7 verse, I think 49 says, ye people who do not know the law. It's because we act lawlessly. He said the law was the very thing that made you great in the sight of the nations. When we moved according to the law, all the other nations couldn't say anything about us because we were so prudent in everything that we did. But when we act and we act outside of the confinements of the law, that's when we not blameless. And that's when we be turning up, popping off, ready to knock somebody's head off, shooting, killing, robbing. And that's the way they're able to take the few that do that and just say everybody, smear all of us and say that, yeah, they all, criminals. They all hoes and thoughts. They all ignorant. They all lazy. Right? We give them ammunition. But go ahead and read.
Want that in John? You still want that Deuteronomy?
That's cool. It's cool, John. We can finish the Deuteronomy. But I appreciate that. Verse 6.
Verse 6. In the sight of the nations, which shall hear all these statutes and say, surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people. For what nation is there so great?
So I told you was great. Told you the greatest. He says that you're above all the nations. He said you're a royal priesthood, a holy people, above all the other nations. Go ahead.
Who have God so nigh unto them.
He said, what other people, what other nation is so great that they have the living God, the God of Israel? He's even calling himself the God after the name that he gave us. He said, you only have I known. Go ahead.
As the Lord our God is in all things that we call upon him for.
When we call upon him in righteousness, when we handle our part. He said, anything that you ask me, I got you. He said, I'll remove mountains for you. He said, I'll open up seas and make the where the water was dry land so that you can walk across. He said, I didn't do it once. I did it twice at least. He said, read your history. He said, I've done great things for you. I don't know why it is that this day you don't think that I could pay your bills. You don't think that I could heal your cancer. I don't know what it is. But he does know what it is because I know what it is. We ain't keeping these commandments. We ain't humbled ourselves. We have stepped. So let's get into it. Let's go to the book of Ruth, because that's one thing about this woman. The reason why her story is highlighted because she didn't have step. And what the Most High shows us, he says, look, if I can put my spirit and cause this woman to act according to this law, who is not of another nation, who's not going to reap the same benefits that you guys are going to reap, right? Said, I ain't going to put her in that lake of fire. She's going to be blessed to be one of your humble servants. And that in itself is a blessing for the other nations. But he said, if I can do that with her, then what in the heck is wrong with us? He said, you ought to for sure understand that it's within you to be a lot greater than you've been. Humble yourself. So let's read about Ruth. Book of Ruth, chapter 1 and verse 1.
The book of Ruth, chapter 1 and verse 1. Now it came to pass in the days when the judges ruled that there was a famine in the land. And a certain man of Bethlehem, Judah, went to sojourn in the country of Moab, he and his wife and his 2 sons.
Go ahead.
And the name of the man was Elimelech, and the name of his wife, Naomi. And the name of his 2 sons, Mahlon and Chilion, Ephrathites of Bethlehem, Judah.
Go ahead.
And they came into the country of Moab and continued there.
So, speaking about Israelites, this is after the time of the book of Judges, right? You read the history on the book of Judges, a whole lot of stuff went down. All right. But we're going to basically just kind of highlight overall what went down versus what did not go down, because sometimes people kind of get their timelines mixed up. Right. So you do have a situation where these Israelites ended up in the country of Moab, and they went there because there was famine. Go ahead.
Verse 3. And Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died, and she was left and her 2 sons.
Go ahead.
And they took them wives of the women of Moab.
So they took them wives. I know off top because when you just now getting into the faith, you might not have known as much about the history and what was acceptable and what was not acceptable versus what may be acceptable now and what may not be acceptable now. So your average Israelite, right? They're going to say, well, hold on. It's unlawful to take a woman of another nation. What's going on here? Right? Am I right or am I wrong? Okay, how many of y'all even thought about that? You said, ain't it wrong? Okay, well, let's see. Go to the book of Numbers, chapter 25. Numbers 25. And let's get 1 and 2.
Numbers chapter 25 and verse 1. And Israel abode in Shittim, and the people began to commit whoredom with the daughters of Moab.
Okay, so before we even go into whether or not it was okay, right? One thing we got to get some context. Read that one more time.
And Israel
And
abode, and Israel.
We're talking about the children of Israel. Go ahead.
Abode in Shittim.
Go ahead.
And the people began to commit whoredom with the daughters of Moab.
Our people, men, started committing whoredom with the daughters of Moab. Go ahead.
And they called the people unto the sacrifice of their gods.
They did what?
And they called the people unto the sacrifices of their gods.
They called the children of Israel to the sacrifices of their gods. Because that was always the issue. There was a time, which we'll get a little bit later, when it was a certain way that was permitted for Israel to take women of certain nations, not of every nation. Because you jump back to Abraham and Isaac and Jacob. They gave specifics according to what they were told by their forefathers, by the Most High as well, on who they could potentially marry and who they were not to marry. Right? There were a few nations that the Most High at that time say, stay away from them. I haven't given you any okay to marry any of their daughters. But then there were certain nations, a lot of times some of these nations were not too far removed from being related to our nation. I'll give you an example. Abraham, during his time with the Midianites. The Midianites were of the lineage of Shem, and they came through some of the same fathers as Abraham did. So these are things that you got to be mindful of. I know off top, once Esau was officially out there, it was like, hold on. But even before Esau, one of the main ones, he said, leave Canaan alone. Boy, they're going to get you caught up. No matter what you do not marry them Canaanites. But our people, boy, couldn't stay away. But he said this was the reason, because they would get caught up in serving their gods the same way Solomon did. As wise as Solomon was, as much study as Solomon did, Solomon got caught up with these women. What's the equivalent? Because some people say, okay, I really can't imagine that. It's just like you got a couple of women that you're dealing with, brother, and you keeping these commandments. She said, okay, I'm keeping the commandments with you too, babe, but I want to go visit my family for Christmas. Well, it ain't gonna hurt. Well, this is a tradition of my family. I ain't trying to tell you all of that. You ain't got to put a Christmas tree up, but I just want to give them gifts. And she just keep on at you till you finally said, all right, don't put that Christmas tree up though. And then you just bending, and they got you bending. Now, you can see it now, right? I know you don't go to church, baby, but it's just this one time. They got a christening going on, baby. I just need you to go this 1 week. She press you and press you. All right, well, I'm going to go. I already know there's some BS. I told you there's some BS, but you sitting up in there. That's how Solomon got caught up. And that's how our people was getting caught up. He doing stuff because they nagging him, they talking, they doing all of the other favors, and they say, okay, I just want this one thing, baby. All right, well, okay, just this one thing. Go ahead and finish that off. Verse 2. That was it?
No, the part. And the people did eat and bow down to their gods.
Got caught up. Let's go back. So before I go into what I really want to go to a little bit later on, I might go ahead and go to it now. Go to Deuteronomy chapter 21. So in other words, it wasn't a new thing. Prior to this space and time with Ruth, our people were already getting caught up with the Moabite women. That's what I wanted to show you. So let's read Deuteronomy 21, verse 10 through 13.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 21 and verse 10.
So now, this is to deal with whether or not at that time it was any way lawful for an Israelite man to take a woman of another nation. Go ahead.
Verse 10, and it reads, when thou goest forth to war against thine enemies, and the Lord thy God hath delivered them into thine hands, and thou hast taken them captive, and seest among them, among the captives, a beautiful woman.
So you didn't went in, y'all didn't put in work in the name of the Most High. And the Most High gave permission, because he was specifically, sometimes he would be like, kill them all. Kill the babies, kill the women, kill the old people, kill their cattle, kill their dogs, kill their pet mice, kill all them bastards, and don't take none of their stuff. And that's when we wasn't supposed to take nothing, kill them all. Because he knew. That was just like Amalek. Amalek is the one that is responsible as far as on the physical level for us being in the enslavement in this particular captivity that we're in right now. He's the one ruling the earth. He's the one that's responsible for your torment. He's the key vessel of Satan. All right. People that call themselves by your name, so-called Jews. Right. Well, if you go back in history, Saul was supposed to kill them all. And what happened? Didn't do it. So there were times when the Most High said, kill them all. And then there were times where the Most High said, okay, if you see some of the women, you can take the women, just like the Midianites. All right. So this was the law. If the Most High permitted, he said, okay, you see a beautiful woman. Oh, she bad. Okay. All right, cool. All right. This is what you can do. Go ahead and read.
And seest among the captives a beautiful woman, and hast a desire unto her, that thou wouldest have her to be thy wife, then thou shalt bring her home to thine house, and she shall shave her head and par her nails.
That's an aspect of humbling her. Because women, you feel real good when your hair like you want it. You know, you got that extra swag when your nails is, nails got that twinkle to them. Toes on deck, shining like you done buffed your car. You feel some type of way. You feel special. He said, take all that away, strip them, humble them. Go ahead.
And pare her nails, and she shall put the raiment of her captivity from off her, and shall remain in thine house.
So she got to take off them Babylonian garments. She got to take off them garments from her native land. She got to start dressing like you. Go ahead.
And shall remain in thine house, and bewail her father and her mother a full month.
She got a whole month to bewail her family, because she ain't going to more than likely see them anymore. Go ahead.
And after that, thou shalt go in unto her.
And then also she would bewail them, because in most cases, her family would get killed, destroyed. Men of her family, so on and so forth. Then after that, you should go in unto her. Go ahead.
And be her husband, and she shall be thy wife.
And that's another scripture that shows you what it means to be married. Once he went in unto her, that became his wife. For people that's trying to tell you otherwise, that ain't no marriage. You lay down with somebody, you married. That's what the scriptures say. I don't care how fancy the paperwork is or it ain't. Go ahead.
And it shall be If thou have no delight in her,
That's all. That's all I needed. That's all I needed. So I wanted to show you that. Now, this ain't what the lesson is about, so I'm not gonna go too deep into it. There was a time in history, read the book of Ezra, when the Most High said, okay, enough is enough. Y'all abusing this. And he said, look, no more. Leave these nations alone because you ain't gonna never get it together. All right. So that's where we at now. Because I know somebody gonna say, "I see, I told you we can have concubines, we can have the women of the other nations." Nah. So let's go from there. Let's go back to Ruth 1 and 4. You said, was that? Yes, sir.
The Moabites are family, isn't it? Because they're from the lineage of Lot.
Distant family now. Yeah, they was considered to be family. Esau was closer family than us, than them. Yeah, they come out a lot. Uh-huh. Ammonites. Yep. They used to be. Israel, our family now. It's just the same thing. Like, put it like this. Couple of generations ago, people that you don't even know that are related to you were brothers and sisters. Right? Nah, definitely was. Generations down the line, you don't know probably anything past your second cousin. That's how things roll. If I go to him, I know my great grandfather, I believe, named William Benson, right? All right. I know for a fact we don't know any of his other children in the branches. And that's only a couple of generations back. I know you don't, because you my uncle. How many kids, different women, Robert Lee had, you already know. So now you only know what came out of you and from your household and a few others. Yeah. So it's been a long time since and they done did a whole bunch of wickedness since then. That's why we don't mess with, we don't claim them no more. Nah, for sure. Because we all come from Adam. So all of them, and we ain't claiming them, like I say in the book of Acts, they're from all of these nations out of one blood. But Most High said, I ain't dealing with none of them wicked bastards. He said, I'm only messing with y'all. He said, it's hard enough dealing with us. All right, go ahead, verse 4.
Ruth chapter 1 and verse 4.
Uh-huh.
And they took them wives of the woman of Moab.
God.
The name of the one was Orpah, and the name of the other Ruth. And they dwelt there about 10 years.
Uh-huh.
And Mahlon and Chilion died also, both of them. And the woman was left of her 2 sons and her husband.
Go ahead. So both of the men, the Israelites that happened to take these women as wives, they died. All right. So this is the setup. This is what's going on. Go ahead.
Then she arose with her daughters-in-law, that she might return from the country of Moab, for she had heard in the country of Moab how that the Lord had visited his people in giving them bread.
So she found out, okay, it's safe to return, but her sons were passed on now. So watch this. Go ahead.
Wherefore she went forth out of the place where she was, and her 2 daughters-in-law with her. And they went on their way to return unto the land of Judah. And Naomi said unto her 2 daughters-in-law, Go, return each to her mother's house. And the Lord deal kindly with you, and ye have dealt with the dead and with me.
As he have dealt with the dead and with me. So she's telling them, she said, look, you know what? My sons are gone. Like the scriptures say in the New Testament, you only under that law of marriage until death do you part. Well, my sons are dead. You free to go and marry who you want. Said, why don't y'all just go back home? I'm about to go back home. I heard everything is straight now, where I'm from in Judah. I'm going back, and I advise y'all to go back to y'all people. Go ahead and live your life. You no longer are because when you take on someone in marriage, their parents become your parents. She said, well, my sons are gone. You no longer under that. You can go ahead and live your life. Now go ahead, read.
The Lord grant you that you may find rest,
Uh-huh.
each of you in the house of your husband.
Now that's crazy right there, because one thing that y'all got to understand, women, when you take on a marital situation, one thing that you got to understand, you're taking on the job to be a help. You taking on a job where it does mean that you will serve. So that's why she acknowledged that. She said, you know what, y'all go ahead and rest. So we got to remember that. Sometimes we forget that. In the nature of our marriages, we do this because we don't remember what a marriage is all about. A marriage is a union of two Israelites. Well, we speaking about Israelites, any nation, but coming together to build, to help build and further the nation. All right. So she said, you know what? You ain't got to serve my sons no more because they dead. And therefore, you ain't got to serve me as your mother-in-law. You free. Go ahead and get you some rest. A lot of y'all single women, you resting right now. When you get into that marriage, know that you coming to serve, right? All right. I ought to get an amen like the bootleg church. That's what you want. If that's what you want, that's what it is. Bible keep it straight up. And the man working too. He gonna serve. He got to serve regardless. But watch this. Go ahead and read.
The Lord grant you that you may find rest, each of you in the house of your husband.
Mm-hmm.
Then she kissed them, and they lifted up their voice and wept. And they said unto her, surely we return with thee unto thy people.
Uh-huh.
And Naomi said, turn again, my daughters.
So hold on. I want to highlight something real quick. Read verse 10 one more time.
And they said unto her, surely we will return with thee unto thy people.
We will return with thee unto thy people. Because I know a lot of people, I've watched the lessons, I've done my own research. That's not the way I've chosen to deal with this lesson. But if need be, we can always go into, that at another time. People go into the fact that, certain portions of the land, were inhabited, by different people, the land of Moab, and argue that, yeah, Israelites had already taken over that land. It was just still being called the land of Moab. That she was actually an Israelite, but she was just of the land of Moab. But there are just way too many references for us to make that kind of assumption. They make it clear, saying over and over and over, showing that there's a difference. So he said, surely, or she said, surely we will return with thee unto thy people, your people, not our people, but your people, because they weren't Israelites. All right, go ahead and read.
And Naomi said, turn again, my daughters. Why will you go with me? Are there yet any more sons of my womb, that they may be your husbands?
She said, look, I'm old. My husband is gone. It's like the scriptures say, if a woman, she over a certain age, she done did her part, she done raised children, she done did all of the things that the virtuous woman of Israel is supposed to do. You know what? I'm good. I ain't marrying no more. I'm good. I done did my part. She said, I ain't got no more kids in this womb. Who y'all gonna be waiting on? Going back like to the story of Judah. Judah had some young ones. He had some old kids and some young kids. She waited for the young one. She said, I ain't got no more. Who y'all waiting on? She said, y'all go ahead and go. Go ahead.
Turn again, my daughters. Go your way. For I am too old to have a husband.
Uh-huh. Go ahead.
If I should say I have hope, if I should have a husband also tonight, and should also bear sons.
Because she said, yeah, I technically can be married again. But I'm at a point in my life where that ain't what I'm looking for. And I'm definitely not at the age to bear children. Go ahead.
Would he tarry for them till they were grown?
She said, and if I was to somehow do that, if I pulled a Sarah like my foremother, you gonna wait until they get grown? Go ahead.
Would you stay for them from having husbands?
She said, y'all all of these years of your prime, you hot and heated and you want a husband, you telling me that you gonna wait for them to grow up? Go ahead.
Nay, my daughters, for it grieveth me much for your sakes that the hand of the Lord is gone out against me.
She said, man, I hate that this happened. I hate that it happened for y'all's sake, but it is what it is. Go ahead.
And they lifted up their voice and wept again. And Orpah kissed her mother-in-law, but Ruth clave unto her.
See, one of them accepted it, but Ruth, she just couldn't let go. She just couldn't let it go. Go ahead.
And she said, behold, thy sister-in-law is gone back unto her people.
Unto who?
Unto her people.
See, now there it is again. My people, your people. We different. Your sister-in-law, she done went back to her people. Go ahead.
And unto her God.
And unto her God. Gods. Because we read about that. The Moabites had gods. We are what they would call monotheist. One God. They were what? Polytheists. They were known to have multiple gods. Said, go back to your people and your gods. Go ahead.
Return thou after thy sister-in-law. And Ruth said,
hold on. Just a reference. What does Amos chapter 2 and verse 27 say? It says that the Most High is only the God of Israel and no other nation. They would have made that correlation and said, just like, as a matter of fact, when you go in the book of Matthew, when Yahweh Shai spoke to the Samaritan woman, right? What did he tell her? As a matter of fact, what she say? Because she already knew what it was. You got to remember too, because some people try to say, well, it's just like what you read in the New Testament and stuff. You know that Israel was scattered. That's not at this time. The split happened when? Before or after this? After. David hadn't even been born yet. Therefore, Solomon, who caused the split to happen, had not been born. So there was no split. There was no separated kingdoms at that time. There was no northern and southern kingdom at that time. So if indeed this sister was an Israelite, it would have been known and it would have been referenced accordingly. Matter of fact, you go to the book of Joshua, I believe chapter 22, and that's one of the things that the Israelites, some of the tribes were talking about. They said, we split by I believe, I forgot what body of water it was, but by one of the rivers. They said, look, there's a separation between us, but we want to make sure that we got an understanding, because we don't want your kids down the line saying that our kids ain't got nothing to do with the Most High in Israel. So we want to make sure there ain't no division, no separation. So that's not what was happening at that time. So it doesn't give us enough to believe that that was the case. That was not the case. This woman was a woman of Moab. Go ahead.
And Ruth said, entreat me not to leave thee, or to return from following after thee. For whither thou goest, I will go.
She said, wherever you go, I want to go. I don't care where you go. I'm going to follow you. I want to be with you. Have you ever felt like that about somebody? That's a strong feeling. I know kids feel like that about their parents. That's why it be so hard. We don't think that it's a big thing. We like, I'm just going to work. I'm just going to chill with the homies, chill with the homegirls. But kids feel so strongly, they so joined unto you that they don't want you to go. They'll follow you to the ends of the earth. They'll dag on there. Some of them will follow you to death. That's how this woman was. Go from there real quick. Hold that. We're going to come back. Get Isaiah chapter 14, verse 1 and 2. Go ahead.
Isaiah chapter 14 and verse 1.
Uh-huh.
For the Lord will have mercy on Jacob, and will yet choose Israel, and set them in their own land. And the strangers shall be joined with them.
You see that? That's something that's going to happen, and that's not too different from what's already happened. Some of y'all got strangers on y'all jobs today that love the heck out of you. They want to be just like you, want to follow you wherever you go. Think you the coolest thing since sliced bread. Am I lying? Somebody experiencing that. Raise your hand if you've experienced that, or if you're experiencing that right now. Y'all ain't got no job. Some of y'all little ones got their hands. My baby son, he got his hand way up. You don't even know what I'm talking about. Go ahead.
And the strangers shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob.
They gonna cleave to us just like Ruth did. See, Ruth, you got to understand, Ruth represents a few things. Ruth represents what it is that we're going to experience when we get into the kingdom. That's why, man, as time goes on, man, we get a better understanding. There's no need for us to have, put it like this, and I want to be clear on this and careful with this, because people will take your words and run with it. Esau is the devil that the Bible speaks of. Boy, he's conniving as a nation of people. It's always, like the scriptures say, he speaketh fair, but there's 7 abominations behind it, right? So the thing is, with the other nations, you got many wicked of the other nations. They're wicked in some respect anyway, because they refuse to keep these commandments. But you got some of these nations that's going to love the heck out of you. I bet you experience some of these nations, they love you now. They can't have what we have, but they do get to have their portion of salvation, which is what? They get to not go to the lake of fire. They get to serve us the same way we serving them right now. And they're going to be happy about it. They're going to love it. It's going to be a better life than you could ever imagine, because they ain't got to live in a world of chaos like we living in right now. They get to live in a world that's ruled by righteous Israel. And you're going to have people like Ruth that's going to be cleaving to you. That's going to be real ride or die, that's willing to do whatever it is that you need them to do. They right by your side. Just like you seen the movies where all 4 mothers and 4 fathers, we be right by Esau. Whatever it is you want, is we sick? That's how they going to be. That's how Ruth was. So this is just a glimpse. Go ahead.
And the people shall take them and bring them to their place. And the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Lord for servants and handmaids.
That's what Ruth, she ended up being. We're going to get there in a second. That's the nature of the relationship. Go ahead.
And they shall take them captives, whose captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors. See, some of this stuff, man, we make it a bit more far-fetched than what it actually is. Some of y'all, I'm pretty sure if you don't have one now, you've been on a job where you had a supervisor and you was like, man, my supervisor is cool as heck. Man, I love this job. And when you love this job, you willing to pretty much do whatever it is that you can do to make, whatever, make things good at the job. You're a good worker because there's something special being reciprocated. That's what it's going to be like. And that's what it was like with Ruth, man. Naomi was good to them. And she was like, I just can't leave you. I can't see myself nowhere else. I got to be with you, mama. This is my mama. Some of y'all, you got your biological mama, and then you got your other mama. Somebody that's special to you. Somebody that done carved a special place in their heart because they just so good to you. They endow your life. Bring purpose to your being. So let's go back. Matter of fact, I want another one. Isaiah chapter 49, 22 and 23. Get that real quick. Isaiah chapter 49 and verse 22. Thus saith the Lord God, behold, I will lift up mine hand to the Gentiles, and set up my standard to the people. And they shall bring thy sons in thy arms, and thy daughters shall be carried upon their shoulders.
And the crazy thing, because a lot of us, we read this and we be thinking like they're gonna be like, man, I can't stand this little nigga. That's not what it's gonna be like. They're gonna be happy. Carry your kids. Go ahead.
And kings shall be thy nursing fathers,
Mm-hmm.
and their queens thy nursing mothers.
Uh-huh.
They shall bow down to thee with their face toward the earth, and lick up the dust of thy feet. And thou shalt know that I am the Lord, for they shall not be ashamed that wait for me.
In other words, they're gonna humble themselves. So let's go back to Ruth. Verse 16.
Ruth chapter 1 and verse 16. And Ruth said, entreat me not to leave thee, or to return from following after thee. For whither thou goest, I will go, and where thou lodgest, I will lodge. Thy people shall be my people.
Listen to that. Thy people. She understood. Them ain't my people. But I want to be with you so much, and I love you so much, and I love how you get down. Because remember what we read in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 4. It said what? Them laws made us great in the sight of the nations. She saw the wisdom that exuded from this woman, her mother-in-law. She said, man, I want to be a part of that. I can't see myself being without that. Your people gonna be my people. And what?
And thy God, my God.
And I'm gonna make your God my God. I can't go back to them false gods that ain't no real God. I see how your God has moved for your people. I can't go back. Let me be with you. Let me stay with you. Go ahead.
Where thou diest will I die, and there will I be buried.
She said, and whenever you gonna die, I'm gonna be ready to go too. It ain't gonna be no other purpose for me to be on this earth. And wherever you get buried, let me be buried somewhere near you. Go ahead.
The Lord do so to me, and more also, if aught but death part thee and me.
Go ahead.
When she saw that she was steadfastly minded to go with her, then she left speaking unto her.
She said, all right. Come on. Get your stuff. I guess you rolling with me. So I know my time, we kind of a little short on time. Jump down to verse 2, chapter 2.
Chapter 2 and verse 1.
Mm-hmm.
And Naomi had a kinsman of her husband's, a mighty man of wealth, of the family of Elimelech.
So Elimelech was what? That was Naomi's husband that passed on, right? So this guy that we're about to read about, he was actually of that same family. Go ahead.
And his name was Boaz.
Boaz. Remember that. Read on.
And Ruth the Moabitess said
The what?
And Ruth the Moabitess.
The Israelite?
The Moabitess.
She was a Moabite. Go ahead.
Said unto Naomi, let me now go to the field and glean ears of corn after him, in whose sight I shall find grace. And she said unto her, go, my daughter.
So let me explain what this means. How many of y'all know what the word glean means? I appreciate your honesty. Were you honest just to be honest, or you thought I might call on you? You want to tell me what it is? Go ahead. To what? Basically, yeah. Like, when we go to the garden, you picking up greens. That's gleaning. That's gleaning. You can glean greens and you can glean cotton. Man, I used to glean cotton. Right? So Ruth, she said unto her mother-in-law, let me now go to the field and glean ears of corn after him. Talking about Boaz, because she found out about Boaz. Because it's something that she's got in mind that you might not know yet. There's a purpose behind why she's saying, I want to go and glean. I want to go and work in his field. Go ahead.
And she went and came and gleaned in the field after the reapers.
And
her hap was to light on a part of the field belonging unto Boaz, who was of the kindred of Elimelech.
So she wanted to end up in Boaz's field. She said, I want to work in his field. Go ahead. How many of y'all want to work in somebody's field? Oh, but I even though y'all didn't say it, the lips didn't move. I heard the spirit say, "Nigga, please." Me working somebody's field. This woman, why would she decide, hey, I want to go and work in your field? Not I want to go and meet him. I want to go and, maybe have a couple of drinks, chop him up some lamb or something. She said, I want to go work in his field. Let me go and work. Go ahead.
Verse 4. And behold, Boaz came from Bethlehem and said unto the reapers, the Lord be with you. And they answered him, the Lord bless thee. Then said Boaz unto a servant that was set over the reapers, whose damsel is this?
So he said, man, to the main guy that he had over all of his workers, all of his reapers, he said, hey, who damsel is this? Who woman is this? He said, who she belong to? Now here go the thing. I mean, yeah, technically, if she was an Israelite woman, he could say, all right, who's her husband? But I think he probably would have said, who's her husband? But he's seen a heathen woman. So he's like, who does she belong? Who she belong to? I got workers. I'm pretty sure he had workers of other nations working his fields, because the Bible even specifies how we're supposed to deal with our people versus how we're supposed to deal with the other nations, right? So he asked the question. He said, who she belong to? Go ahead.
And the servant that was set over the reapers answered and said, it is the Moabitess damsel that came back.
She a Moabite. That's a Moabite woman. That what?
It is the Moabitess damsel that came back with Naomi out of the country of Moab.
And she came with Naomi. She belongs to Naomi. Go ahead.
And she said, I pray you, let me glean and gather after the reapers among the sheaves.
So I know a lot of times some of y'all done read this in the past and you really didn't understand what was going on. You thought she just wanted to glean and eat a little bit of fruit or something, or eat some greens and be cool and chill all day in his field. No, she was asking him. She said, let me work. Let me work in your field. Let me work. Let me pick corn. Go ahead.
So she came and hath continued even from the morning until now.
So she was picking for hours upon hours. She didn't go and say, let me put in 30 minutes of work and I need a break. She went and put in some work. Go ahead.
That she tarried a little in the house.
And she only tarried a little bit in the house. She wasn't a house Negro or a house Latino. It wasn't that at all. She said, I'm a barely be in the house. I'm gonna show you my worth. I'm gonna be in them fields. She said, I'm gonna get that suntan in these fields. Go ahead.
Then said Boaz unto Ruth, hearest thou not, my daughter? Go not to glean in another field, neither go from hence, but abide here fast by my maidens. So
Boaz said, okay, it's cool. All right, you with Naomi, you could work in my field. Stick by my maidens. Stick by them. They'll tell you what to do. All right, go ahead.
Let thine eyes be on the field that they do reap. And go thou after them.
So he's giving her the command. He says, let thine eyes be on the field that they do reap, and go thou after them. Do what they do. They go to work. Go ahead.
Have I not charged the young men that they shall not touch thee? When thou art athirst, go into the vessels and drink of that which the young men have drawn. Then she fell on her face and bowed herself to the ground and said unto him.
Just think, man, if she was an Israelite woman, would she be doing all of this? Chances are nah. But she understood. She said, look, I know I'm counting less than a dog. I'm trying to get in your grace. I'm bowing myself to the ground. I'm willing to work. I'm so happy that you said I can work in your field. Go ahead.
Then she fell on her face and bowed herself to the ground and said unto him, why have I found grace in thine eyes, that thou shouldest take knowledge of me, seeing I am a stranger?
So she was baffled too. She was like, yeah, okay. But you also showing me like the extra favor, because you could have just been like, Go on and work in the field or get out of here or whatever the case may be. But you even did the little extras and said, you know, and I'm a Moabite. We know that y'all don't really mess with the Moabites. But you put the extras and said, oh, you know what, if you thirsty, go on and drink after, you know, with the men or the young men over there, you can get you something to drink. I told them to chill out, don't be pressing on you. So she was wondering, she said, well, why, man, why you being so nice? Seeing that I'm a what?
Seeing I'm a stranger.
Seeing that I am a stranger. I'm a woman of another nation. You don't know me. Somebody might say, well, she could have been an Israelite and still been a stranger. Duh. Well, in Israel, you would know who someone was based off of what? Their family. Well, whose family do she belong to? Oh, she of such and such. She from such and such tribe. Oh, yeah, them some good people. She good people. So, oh, yeah, tell her to come through. Ain't that what we seen throughout the scriptures over and over? Said, nah, she a stranger. She of another nation. We don't know her. And she was like, being that I'm a stranger, why is it that you showing me so much love? I mean, not love like you would show your own, but you could have easily been nasty with me. You could have, you know, you could have not talked to me. You could have pulled a your house shy on me and gave me the cold shoulder for a minute. So go ahead and read.
And Boaz answered and said unto her.
Matter of fact, hold that real quick. Do I want to go to that? Leviticus 25 real quick. Let me see if I want to really go to this. We ain't got to go to that because I know I'm pressed for time. Time that went by. But it just goes to show you the difference on how Israelites were dealt with versus strangers of the other nations. All right. So you can write that down. Leviticus chapter 25, verse 44 through 46. All right. Go ahead. Verse 11.
Verse 11. And Boaz answered and said unto her, it hath fully been showed me all that thou hast done unto thy mother-in-law since the day of thine husband, to the death of thine husband, and how thou hast left thy father and thy mother in the land of thy nativity, and are come unto a people which thou knowest not heretofore.
So Boaz started figuring it out. He said, okay, all right, Naomi, pretty sure he asked some questions, realized, okay, man, she lost her husband. Oh, she was good to Naomi. And he let it be known. All right, I done heard. I'm up on it. I know what happened. And I know that you good peoples. That's why I'm dealing with you the way that I'm dealing with you. I know that you ain't one of these do nothing females. I know that you really, you really about yours. He said, thou hast left thy father and thy mother and the land of thy nativity. Because it's not only talking about when it says the land of thy nativity, it can be talking about just where she was born, which is in the land or the country of Moab. But a lot of times it also references what her nationality is. That's where you're from. You're a Moabite. It says, and art come unto a people. Again, there's that separation, that distinction, which thou knewest not heretofore. He said, you come to a people, the children of Israel. And I know prior to Naomi, you probably didn't really know much about us. But yet you here. He said, I see that. That takes faith. How many of y'all feel comfortable just going with a woman, with a family of another nation? You just all of a sudden drop and say, hey, I'm going to be with this East Indian family. I'm going to go to East India with them. It's going to be all good. How many of y'all would be willing to make that journey? You'd be pretty skeptical, wouldn't you? So he said, that takes some faith. Go ahead.
The Lord recompense thy work, and a full reward be given thee of the Lord God of Israel, under whose wings thou art come to trust.
He said, because you've come to trust the Heavenly Father. I know you didn't grow up. See, we as Israelites, we grew up knowing who the Most High is and everything that he's done for our nation. You didn't grow up with that. So to hear that, just, being, married to Israelite men and taking on a mother-in-law and then having the type of belief that you got and cleaving unto her and coming to her people, he said that takes some faith. Go ahead.
Then she said, let me find favor in thy sight, my Lord, for that thou hast comforted me, and for that thou hast spoken friendly unto thine handmaid, though I be not like unto one of thine handmaidens.
There it is again. She said, though I'm not like unto one of thy handmaidens. Why? Because I'm not of the same nation. I'm not an Israelite. And I'm probably not of some of the other nations that you probably got. Y'all really don't mess with Moab. Because when you look at it, man, the Most High had a thing against Moab. There's a particular god, I think, by the name of Chemois, also known by Baal Peor. And Most High had a vendetta against those that serve that God. I got some scriptures I might go to if I got time. He had a personal vendetta. So, you know, it was a kind of a big deal. She was like, man, y'all don't usually mess with Moab like that. Keep it 100. Look how our spirit is today. We low-key don't really mess with Moab like that, and Moab don't really mess with us. She was like, okay, this kind of special. Go ahead. Matter of fact, go real quick. Go to Judges chapter 19, 22 through 24. Y'all bored? Yeah, just telling me that, huh? 19 and 22, 22 through 24.
The book of Judges, chapter 19 and verse 22. Now, as they were making their hearts merry, behold, the men of the city, certain sons of Belial, beset the house round about, and beat at the door, and spake to the master of the house, the old man, saying, bring forth the man that came into thine house, that we may know him.
They wanted to have sex with this man. Nasty. Sodomites. Homos. Nasty. You want the men? Go ahead.
And the man, the master of the house, went out unto them and said unto them, nay, my brethren, nay, I pray you, do not so wickedly. Seeing that this man is coming to mine house, do not this folly.
So he was begging them like, don't do this, man, don't do this. That's wicked. Don't do this. He watch, he's gonna give him and all praise be to the Most High, because homosexuality, the Most High hates that, but he also has given our people a chance for redemption. Ain't that a blessing? Man, that's a blessing right there, because a lot of us, we didn't have various different lifestyles. He give us a chance to be redeemed. But back then, heads was being chopped off. Israelites was dying by the thousands. All right. And at this time, it was a big deal. I mean, it's still a big deal, but at this time, it was like, don't do this. Watch this. Read verse 24.
Behold, here's my daughter, a maiden, and his concubine.
He said, man, I'd rather you take my daughter. Here go my daughter. And then here's a concubine, a wife of another nation. Go ahead.
Them I will bring out now, and humble ye them, and do with them what seemeth good unto you. But unto this man do not so vile a thing.
And that's a heck of a story that we ain't gonna really go into today, that you should read on your own. That's some history. But notice that there was a difference that was made between the maiden and the concubine, right? Concubine is a wife, but it is not a wife of that same nation. It's a wife of another nation. So she wouldn't have the same privileges as the wife of that nation. I'll give you an example. Leah and Rachel. How many of you guys are familiar with Leah and Rachel? Jacob's wives. They both had what? They had handmaids that they had gotten, servants from their father, right? Who they ended up giving to their husband Jacob to be his concubines. They were still wives, but they weren't wives on the same level. They still were subject to the authority of Rachel and Leah. All right. So that's why Ruth was saying what she was saying and letting it be understood. Like, I know I'm not on the same level as these women, but yet you still showing me kindness. Why? Because Boaz didn't have to show her that kindness. but he did. But go ahead, verse 14.
Ruth chapter 2 and verse 14. And Boaz said unto her, at mealtime come thou hither and eat of the bread, and dip thy morsel in the vinegar. And she sat beside the reapers, and he reached her parched corn, and she did eat, and was sufficed and left. And when she was risen up to glean, Boaz commanded his young man, saying, let her glean even among the sheaves, and reproach her not.
So that's another thing. He said, man, I know she's a Moabitess, but when you see her eating, man, don't heckle her, don't reproach her and be like, look at that. I don't want to eat out of that. I'm not eating over there. Don't reproach this woman. Treat this woman with some dignity and respect. Go ahead.
And let fall also some of the handfuls of purpose for her, and leave them, that she may glean them and rebuke her not.
So they said, don't pick all of the good stuff and then leave the boo-boo stuff for her. Let her get some of the good stuff. And don't rebuke her. Don't get on her when she picks some of the good stuff. Ain't that how the nations do us? They leave us with the boo-boo stuff, and then they get mad when you get your hands on the good stuff. Where you get that from? What you doing over here? Same thing. Go ahead.
So she gleaned in the field until even, and beat out
and
that.
She gleaned until even, meaning what? She was working all day until the sun went down. She was like, it ain't no big deal. I'm willing to work. I know I'm a servant. I know I'm of another nation. And you giving me this opportunity, then I'm going to work my butt off. Go ahead.
And beat out that she had gleaned. And it was about an ephah of barley.
Okay, so we running out of time. I'm going to jump down. 20.
Verse 20.
As a matter of fact, we'll skip down a little bit more. Verse 23.
Verse 23. So she kept fast by the maidens of Boaz to glean unto the end of barley harvest.
Because what she had gotten, he was also looking out for her because of Naomi. He said, take this back to Naomi. You know, Naomi had went through some hard times. They had went through some famine. He said, take this back to your mother-in-law. So when she took it back to her mother-in-law, of course, her mother-in-law was like, man, you got all of this. She was like, yeah, Boaz hooked it up. He been good to me. So Naomi was like, okay. So what? 23.
So she kept fast by the maidens of Boaz to glean unto the end of barley harvest and of wheat harvest.
Because a lot of y'all, when you read this story before, you probably thought this happened within a couple of days. Says she stayed with him for a season to the end of the harvest, meaning what? She worked all that time and had no gripes about it. Go ahead.
And dwelt with her mother-in-law.
And she was living with her mother-in-law while she was working in his field. All right. So now, verse 3, we're going to kind of read down. Got to a point where the mother-in-law was like, okay, go ahead and read verse 1.
Ruth chapter 3 and verse 1. Then Naomi, her mother-in-law, said unto her, my daughter, shall I not seek rest for thee, that it may be well with thee?
Go ahead.
And now is not Boaz of our kindred, with whose maidens thou wast? Behold, he winnoweth barley tonight in the threshing floor.
So now she's starting to plot. She said, okay, it's been a while now. All right. Boaz, don't forget, Boaz is of the kindred of your deceased husband. Remember what we doing this for. You've been working, but we doing this to what? To see if we can get Boaz to take you on as a wife to do what? That's something I haven't revealed yet. Some of y'all know, right? To do what? Not just to serve him, it's something else. To what? Huh? To have a baby for what? Huh? You almost there. Help him out. To what? Meaning what? Whose name? Whose son's name? Naomi's son. What was his name? Who? Obed. What was his name? this mic kind of funky. I have to wash this mug off. It don't smell like my breath. It's huh? Huh? Which one was her husband? Huh? That was whose husband was that? That was Ruth's husband? Huh? That was Naomi's husband. So we talking about Ruth's husband. What was his name? Was it? Was it Milan or Chilion? Milan. So she wanted to do what for Milan? So she never had a child. She never bare seed with her husband. And there was a thing in Israel, which is going to be referenced, a time that was also documented. But in this particular case, this was another time that was documented where a man of Israel died without giving seed to his wife. That was a big deal in Israel because the Most High would have it to where every man had children, specifically, hopefully a son that could take on his name, right? And continue his generations. So when you had a situation where a man took a wife and for whatever reason, they never bear seed, he passes on, then the law stated that she, which we'll go into in a little bit, was to take next of kin, either his close brother or brother of his, meaning a cousin, uncle, something of that nature, right? And hopefully that they would oblige and take her on as a wife in order to bear seed. And that very first son that they would have would take on the name of her deceased husband. And the reason why it would make sense is because they're of the same family. They're of the same bloodline. They have the same fathers. So, yep, exactly. That was the first one that was referenced that we're going to reference in a minute. Judah and Tamar, right? So that was what they were after. You got this woman, it's crazy. No disrespect. Let me just go there for a minute. I know some of y'all that's a little bit touchy. I don't mean for this to be too touchy. But this woman understood what we have to come to understand, that the Most High wasn't about all of the emotions that a lot of times that we get caught up in. Because I know even with me, I'm like, man, that's kind of crazy. Your brother might get your wife or your cousin or whatever the case may be. It was important for the Most High to have Israelite men, especially those that were profitable to the nation. In this case, this was a big deal because this was the lineage that someone who was great, actually more than just that someone, but specifically that someone would come through this particular lineage. And if it had not been for him coming through this lineage, then we wouldn't be where we're at right now with the opportunities that we have right now, that we're afforded right now. Straight up. Absolutely. So this woman had a different type of mindset. She wasn't worried about her feelings. She wasn't worried, well, all my life I've been wanting to do this. I got to pursue my dreams. I got to do me. I got to live. What about me? What about my feelings? What about my needs? She wasn't on that. She was like, I want to fulfill this. Now, mind you, this wasn't even a woman of Israel. This was a woman of another nation. But she felt that it was of the utmost importance to fulfill what was supposed to be the legacy of her husband. Because that's all that it was about. Getting married was for a woman's desire to be unto her husband and for her to do everything that she possibly could to build his name and build his house. That's what it was all about. And she embodied that. That was by choice. So her mother-in-law had to remind her that this is the mission. So she gave her This is what you do. I'm gonna kind of give you the play-by-play. She said, you know, go to him, don't let him know it's you, let him get full and feeling good with some good liquor. And she said, then I want you to go and uncover his feet and lay at his feet like a dog. A lot of y'all like, nigga, a dog, nigga. I ain't nobody dog. You trying to say I'm a bitch? Got me messed up. She didn't have that type of mindset. She was like, I'm gonna lay at his feet. Some of y'all don't even want to touch a man's feet. You know, man, feet ugly, feet crusty. How many of y'all got some husband with some ugly feet? His feet ain't the prettiest. But she said, lay at his feet. Cause Naomi had some game. She knew what it was. Lay at his feet. Humble yourself. And let's see I guarantee. So let's see if it worked. Drop down to verse 8.
Verse 8. And it came to pass at midnight that the man was afraid and turned himself. And behold, a woman lay at his feet.
He was like, who is this at my feet? Go ahead.
And he said, who art
thou? Go ahead.
And she answered, I am Ruth, thine handmaid.
We're going to get you an acting gig, Doc. Go ahead.
Try to bring it alive. Spread therefore thy skirt over thine handmaid, for thou art a near kinsman.
So now she done revealed it. She said, hey, go ahead and spread that skirt over me. Hey, you got me. Why? Because you a near kinsman. He knew what was up, but he didn't think she was going to move like that because he knew who she was. But she finally said, hey, you already know what it is. He was like, oh, ooh, all right. So let's see what happened. Go ahead.
And he said, blessed be thou the Lord, my daughter.
Man, he thought so highly of her. Why? Not because he had just met her. Remember, how long has she been working in this field? Her reputation already had preceded her. And then he got to see with his own eyes what type of woman she was. So he was like, oh, my goodness. You special. Go ahead.
For thou hast showed more kindness in the latter end than at the beginning.
He said, in the beginning, I thought you was something special. Everything that I heard about how you dealt with Naomi. He said, but what I seen with my own eyes, you even more special now. Go ahead.
Inasmuch as thou followest not young men, whether poor or rich.
Said you ain't looking for no niggas. You ain't messing with him because he cute and you want your own husband. I gotta keep it real, y'all. She had her eyes on the prize. Because that's the thing, man. Get to a point where you gotta understand, place a value on your husband. Place a value on that Israelite man that you got eyes for, because you see his righteousness. You see what kind of family he come from. You see what he has to offer the nation, and you want to help him be better. You want to help build his name. Can I hear amen? All right, for sure. That's what it was. That's what it was. So Boaz had to tell her. He was like, man, I seen how you been moving. I seen so-and-so and them was eyeing you. You didn't give them nothing, no kind of looks. You wasn't tripping off of them. You was focused the whole time on what you was focused on, which was to fulfill this for your husband's name's sake. And I respect that. Go ahead.
And now, my daughter, fear not. I will do to thee all that thou requires.
He said, and everything that you doing from what I seen, he said, man, I will do everything that you want me to do. Go ahead.
For all the city, my people, does know that thou art a virtuous woman.
Whoa, that's heavy right there. Bible says, who can find one? He said, I done found one. And she happened to be of another nation. But are you virtuous? Straight up. Go ahead.
And now it is true that I am the...
Hold on, get that for me real quick. I want it real quick because we running out of time. Proverbs 31, 10 through 12. I'm going to let you get it. I ain't going to even go there. Go ahead and read it for me. 10 through 12.
Proverbs chapter 31 in verse 10.
Yep.
Who can find a virtuous woman?
Who can find her?
For her price is far above rubies.
Woo! How many of y'all done found a virtuous woman in your life so far? And how many have you found? I got one. How many have you found? She said one. Solomon said, of 1,000, I have found none. Meaning what? He ain't saying there wasn't none out there. He said, but out of 1,000, he said, I got to pick through 1,000,000 just to find one. Go ahead.
The heart of her husband does safely trust in her.
He said, man, that's what it is with a virtuous woman. And that was something that he was saying. He was like, man, if I was to take you on, he said, you ain't going to even be no burden. He said, my heart can safely trust that you're going to do everything that you possibly need to do to help to build my house. How can I say no to that? Go ahead.
So that he shall have no need of spoil.
So that he should have no need of spoil. What's so crazy, I'm going to give you a little bit of quick story real quick, testimony. I got one of my cousins, and I think she might even be a Moabite. If I'm not mistaken, if she ain't Moab, she Ammon. I think she Moab. Long story short, he found out I'm an Israelite. He married. And he kept it. He said, let me keep it real with you. He said, look, man. He said, look, my wife does this. She does that. She does whatever I ask. He said, how in the world can I leave this to go to what I'm seeing amongst my sisters? That's a tough one to swallow, but it's real, because it ain't that our sisters can't be that. It's that our sisters need to make the choice and be restored to that once again. But for whatever reason, she got that upbringing, and that's how she moves. And that's something that we got to be mindful of. You know, I had a conversation not too long ago with some of my sisters, right? And we talked about, and we said, hey, you got a lot of men that leave their, marriages, step out on their wives and don't come back. And I told them, I said, think about this. One of the things that is usually a common denominator, usually that man, whatever woman that he is, and I'm not justifying what he's doing, because that ain't right, but he's leaving his wife a lot of times for a woman that's willing to go above and beyond to build his legacy. Am I right or am I wrong? We got to change the dynamics of things. And this is a story right here, our history of the Most High showing us that it can and it should be done. And he said, not only can it be done by Israel, he said, I'm going to show you that it could have been done with a heathen. So if a heathen can do it, you doggone sure that y'all could do it. Right? Was that all of that?
She will do him good and not evil all the days of her life.
All the days of her life. That's what it means to have a virtuous woman. That's what you need to be able to build your nation and be able to do the works and be able to give yourself and devote yourself to the Most High. Because you can't devote yourself to the Most High when you don't have that. All right. Let's go back to Ruth. We're going to fly through it real quick. So when you read on, he said, I'll do it, but I got to be honest. There's one more guy that's closer kinsman to your husband than me. He said, let's do this. Let's go to him. If he says that he'll be your husband, then it's only right for him to be your husband. But if he decides that he will not do this thing, then I will for sure oblige and become your husband. Why? Ecclesiasticus 7:19.
Ecclesiasticus chapter 7 and verse 19.
Go ahead.
Forgo not a wise and good woman.
What?
Forgo not a wise and good woman.
Forgo not. What does it mean to forego? Don't pass up. Don't pass up a what?
A wise and good woman.
A wise and a good woman. When you see a wise and a good woman, man, you better understand what you got. You better understand what you got, and you better cherish it. I know some women say, yeah, we ain't never cherish. No, be wise, and I guarantee a wise man will know not to forego. That's something that you want to hold on to. something that you want to cleave to. That's a possession that's far beyond any other treasure that you can attain. Go ahead. Was that all of that?
For her grace is above gold.
Her what?
Her grace is above gold.
Her grace is above gold. What is grace? Grace is when I heard somebody say it. Mercy and grace ain't the exact same thing. Mercy, somebody simplified this. Mercy is when you don't get something that you really deserve. That punishment that you really deserve, that you don't want, the Most High don't cast it upon you. That's called mercy. Grace is kind of the opposite. It's the same thing, but grace is when you get something that you don't deserve. And it gives you that opportunity to get it right. But grace is when you get something that you don't deserve. Because that type of woman, you might not even necessarily deserve it. I'm pretty sure you can pinpoint a lot of things that you haven't done right in your life. But the Most High say, I know you've been trying. You've been 100. Let me bless you with this wife. She'll be a grace unto you all your life. Let's go back to the book of Ruth. Chapter 3, verse 14, real quick.
Ruth, chapter 3 and verse 14. And she lay at his feet until the morning.
Now, that's that part I wanted. She lay at his feet until the morning, because what he told her, he said, you know, it's another dude. Let's check that out. Whoop-de-whoop. She could have easily been like, all right, I'll see you tomorrow. She was so humble that she stayed at his feet, and she laid there like a pet dog or like a cat, and stayed at his feet. And then she woke up before everybody else woke up, and she got up out of there. That's the type of woman that she was. Let's go to chapter 4. So then Boaz goes to this other brother who was closer of kin. Let's get straight to it. And he asked him, let's go verse 4. Verse 3.
Verse 3. And he said unto the kinsmen, Naomi that has come again out of the country of Moab, saith the parcel of land, which is our brother Elimelech's.
So he told him, he said, our brother Elimelech, that's our kin folks. Naomi got a parcel of land for sale. Right? You interested? Go ahead.
And I thought to advertise these, saying, buy it before the inhabitants and before the elders of my people.
So he told him, he said, before anybody else get to go on it, man, we got to go on it, but you got it even before me, because you the next to kin. So he's smart about it. He's selling it to him. Of course, he's going to be like, what? Heck yeah. Let's see. Go ahead.
If thou wilt redeem it, redeem it. But if thou wilt not redeem it, then tell me, that I may know. For there is none to redeem it beside thee, and I am after thee. And he said, I will redeem it.
He said, and if you ain't going to redeem it, I'm after you, I'm going to get it. So let's see what he say. You know he an Israelite. What your average Israelite going to say? Read on.
Then said Boaz, what day thou buyest the field of the hand of Naomi, thou must buy it also of Ruth the Moabitess.
So hold on. And at the end of 4, and he said, not Boaz, but the kinsman, he said, I will redeem it. So he was like, heck yeah, I'll buy it. Now, verse 5.
Then said Boaz,
go ahead.
What day thou buyest the field of the hand of Naomi, thou must buy it also of Ruth the Moabitess, the wife of the dead, to raise up the name of the dead upon his inheritance.
Let's see if things change now. Go ahead.
And the kinsman said, I cannot redeem it for myself, lest I mar my own inheritance.
He said, nah, homie, I don't know if I could touch that one. I might mar my own inheritance. Because look, man, it's a Moabite. What I look like taking a Moabite for a wife. Then on top of that, I thought it was gonna be mine. You telling me it gotta go to Milan and whoop-de-whoop. I don't know, man. I might mar my own inheritance, meaning I might somehow mess up my own name and inheritance. He was being selfish. Nothing about his brother, keeping his brother's name in Israel. Go ahead.
Redeem thou my right to thyself, for I cannot redeem it.
He said, you go ahead and redeem it. I can't do it. Go ahead.
Now this was the matter in former time in Israel concerning redeeming and concerning changing. For to confirm all things, a man plucked off his shoe and gave it to his neighbor. And this was a testimony in Israel.
So you got to go read about that in the law. We don't have time. But when a man would not oblige, that shoe would get taken off. I think it was some spit involved too. Yeah. And he got that smiggity smack, and he was shamed. And it was made known that he wouldn't carry on his brother's legacy and help out his brother by fulfilling the duty of a brother. So that's what he had to do. Go ahead, verse 8.
Verse 8. Therefore the kinsman said unto Boaz, buy it for thee. So he drew off his shoe. And Boaz said unto the elders and to all the people, ye are witnesses this day that I have bought all that was Elimelech's and all that was Chilion's and Mahlon's of the hand of Naomi. Moreover, Ruth the Moabitess, the wife of Mahlon, have I purchased to be my wife, to raise up the name of the dead upon his inheritance, that the name of the dead be not cut off from among his brethren and from the gate of this place. You are witnesses this day.
So he told him, he said, look, man, I'm going to take it on me. You can also write down Leviticus chapter 25, verse 44 through 46. Give you some more understanding on that. So he said, look, I'm going to take it on me. I'm going to do this day. And I'm going to take on Ruth so that I can carry on the legacy of my brother. Go ahead.
And all the people that were in the gate and the elders said, we are witnesses. The Lord make the woman that is coming to thine house like Rachel and like Leah.
Like who?
Like Rachel and like Leah.
Who is Rachel and Leah? Who? Jacob's wives. What was so special about them? Huh? They were sisters? That's what was special? That's it? Huh? Go ahead and read.
Which two did build the house of Israel.
They did what?
Did build the house of Israel.
They built the house of Israel. Women be like, man, we ain't even about us. He said, look, y'all the ones that's building the nation. Hold that real quick. Ecclesiasticus 40 and 19.
Ecclesiasticus chapter 40 and verse 19.
Go ahead.
Children in the building of a city continue a man's name.
Children and the building of a city continueth a man's name. Those are the things that cause a man to be great in his nation. Children and the building of a city. Now, can a man have children on his own? Who he need? His who? His what? His what? Say it with some bass in your voice. He needs y'all. He needs you. And that's the beauty of it all. He said children and the building of a city. Those are the things. We talking about building. These sisters was building. They was building through having children. When you read about Rachel and Leah, they gave their husband they maids and said, take her on as a concubine. I just want you to have more children. I want to see if I can give you more children. I want to see if I can give you more children. They wasn't like, oh, no, I ain't about to sleep with you after sleeping with. They wasn't in that type of mindset. It was all about building a nation. Because we don't watch too much crap and our minds are perverted now. We think about things differently than our foremothers thought about it. You got to remove yourself from this westernized mindset, right? And we got to get back to the basics of what it takes to do what? To build a nation. You can't have a selfish mindset building a nation. You can't get caught up in feelings every couple of seconds and not be able to look at the bigger picture and look towards the greater good, which this sister was able to do. If you're trying to build a nation, you got to be able to look to the greater good, get over your feelings, realize your feelings don't matter, and get happy about what you're doing in order to build. Be happy about being selfless. Be happy about the sacrifice that you got to give. How many of y'all have you ever just finally got in a mindset and you just put in work, you sacrifice to where it hurts you and it felt so good, especially after the thing that you set out to accomplish, you saw it coming to fruition? Don't it feel good? Don't it feel good after you done struggled to kind of get in the groove of things and you finally accepted and say it ain't no way around it. I got to work hard. I got to do this on a day-to-day basis. And you actually do it and you succeed in doing it and it feel good after you do it. There it go. It's beauty in that, but you don't realize the beauty until you've done it. You got to make the choice to do it. So go back, and we about to finish up.
Go back to Ruth chapter 4.
Chapter 4, and I think verse 12?
Actually, yeah. Verse 12.
Go ahead.
Actually, I left off in verse 11.
Okay.
The Lord made the woman that is coming to thy house like Rachel and like Leah, which two did build the house of Israel. Mm-hmm. And do thou worthily in Ephratah, and be famous in Bethlehem. Mm-hmm. And let thy house be like the house of Pharez, whom Tamar bare unto Judah, of the seed which the Lord shall give of this young woman.
So that's the thing. Not only did this other story happen about a situation of the duty of a brother, but it also was within that same lineage. And all of this was to go to make sure that one particular person was birthed into this earth, which was who? Yahushua. All of this so that Yahushua, Hamashiach, the anointed, whom the world calls Jesus Christ, could be born. Most High put a spirit on them. They understood that no matter what happens, we got to make sure that we do our part in physically bringing forth our King. Ain't that heavy? What's so crazy is when you go into the scriptures, y'all don't know, and I tell y'all this all the time, y'all don't know what y'all got right there. You don't know who you bringing forth. Scripture gave a whole lot of names. It said Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob would be back before Yahushua came back. Said that a number of different prophets was going to be back. I think the prophet Ezra said he was going to be back in this time. Said that some of the books that was named after some of the prophets, those prophets would be back. Talked about Elijah being back. He came back as John and said he was going to come back again to make way for Yahushua. So you don't realize who you got, who you carrying in your womb, who you feeding on a day-to-day basis, who you teaching. You got to have a different mindset. Something in their spirit understood. They said, it ain't about me. That's what we got to get to. It ain't about me. All right, it's about building this house because the prophets got to come back so that we can get up out of here and we can get this kingdom. Go ahead.
So Boaz took Ruth, and she was his wife. And when he went in unto her, the Lord gave her a conception, and she bare a son.
You can write down 1 Timothy chapter 2, verse 13 through 15. Because the scripture told, it said, it went all the way back to Eve. It said, after all that she had done, she had messed up. But it said, but she and those that come out of her, the women of Israel, shall be saved in childbearing. Ain't that heavy? Said that's the thing that you're supposed to concentrate on. Rear them up so that they can be the avengers of our nation. That's heavy. Go ahead.
And the woman said unto Naomi, blessed be the Lord, which hath not left thee this day without a kinsman, that his name may be famous in Israel.
Said, man, it was a big deal to them. They said, look, you got a kinsman. We thought you wasn't going to have no grandbabies. I heard my mama say this. I heard my mama, she used to always tell us, she said, hey, you don't owe me nothing. You don't owe me nothing. And one day I had to tell her, I said, Mama, that ain't what the scriptures say. Scriptures say I do owe you. The children are supposed to come back and be able to return that favor. They're supposed to be able to take care of their parents once their parents need that help. That's what it's supposed to be. So it was crazy because it was like she wasn't going to have anybody, but this child came. Now she got somebody. And it spoke on how she became a nurse to that baby. It wasn't to say that Ruth didn't have anything to do with the baby, but what it was saying was she became a grandmother to that baby. And I see that the same way my mom take on my children. She take on my brother's children. And I see the way that they deal in the same way that my grandmother dealt with me. My grandmother, it was like not only did I have a father and a mother, but I had a grandmother that was a parent to me. And now that's what she had. She was able to all of the knowledge that she had, all of the righteousness, be able to instill those things within this child. And this child, when she was going to need someone to take care of her, he was going to be right there. Watch this. We're going to read.
And he shall be unto thee a restorer of thy life.
Listen to this. This is a heavy verse. I ain't heard nobody breaking this down or putting focus on this. Read that one more time.
And he shall be unto thee a restorer of thy life.
This child is going to be a restorer of her life. Sometimes you lose, and you just accept. She said you done lost so much, but this child right here going to bring life. He going to breathe life back into you. Happiness that you thought, companionship that you thought you wasn't going to never have again. You ain't planning to get married, but them grandkids will keep you company, won't they, Dad? They'll invigorate your household like you never thought. As much as you might have thought, and they are burdensome, but they bring so much joy, don't they? He said you're going to have that joy again. Go ahead.
And a nourisher of thine old age.
And when you get old, guess who's going to take care of you? Man, it's good to have somebody to take care of you. Go ahead.
For thy daughter-in-law, which loveth thee, which is better to thee than 7 sons, hath borne him.
He said, look, he's going to even be better than her. You got somebody now. Because she going to teach, the way she's been with Naomi, she's going to teach her son to be even that much more with Naomi. Go ahead.
And Naomi took the child and laid it in her bosom and became nurse unto it.
She became the nurse. She said, "It's my baby right here. Everything I got is going to be yours." Go ahead.
And the woman, her neighbors, gave it a name, saying, there is a son born to Naomi. And they called his name Obed. He is the father of Jesse, the father of David.
Go ahead.
Now these are the generations of Perez. Perez begot Hezron, and Hezron begot Ram, and Ram begot Amminadab, and Amminadab begot Nason, and Nason begot Salmon, and Salmon begot Boaz, and Boaz begot Obed, and Obed begot Jesse, and Jesse begot David.
Wouldn't be no David. Wouldn't be Solomon, and it wouldn't be a Yahushua. Through this woman. Even when you go in the New Testament, when they give the lineage, they didn't have to put her name in there, but they gave what we would call an honorable mention. That's what I want for y'all over here. I know y'all said I've been going hard. I just got to come at you like the scriptures say, but I'm going to soften up on this moment right here. I want to be the one to tell you that you can be all that you can be. And you will be encouraged. But let the scriptures be your comforter. This is the type of mindset that we got to take on and build in this nation, because it's time. All praise be unto the Most High. Also, when you get a chance, read 1 Samuel chapter 25, You can read the whole thing, but definitely verse 39 through 43. And that's speaking on Abigail, because I know a lot of times we reference Abigail. But one of the things about Abigail, when they went back and her husband had passed on, Abigail, she said, look, I'll serve the servants of David. She lowered herself, and she was an Israelite woman. She said, I'll go and I'll be the lowest of the low. And of course, it was no need for that. But that's the type of mindset that she had, because she just wanted to help build the nation. She saw a great man of Israel. She spoke above that on all of the great things that she had already knew about David and what he was doing. And she gave him them props. And that's what made David acknowledge her. The same way Boaz acknowledged Ruth, David took knowledge of what he was hearing from this woman. She had done her homework. And then he seen how she was moving. She said, if you're going to judge anybody, if you're going to execute anybody, execute me over my husband, but spare my husband. He said, that's the type of woman I want on my team. That's what I'm talking about. Let's get in that mindset. All right. All right. Any announcements?
I got the announcements.
Go ahead, Doc.
Good lesson, though. I appreciate that. That was good.
Side, man.
All right. So the announcements for today.